Hello again. It's been some time since I have recorded a video. Um, Tonight I was inspired to speak on a couple of points. I was listening to a talk that was given at a gathering for A Course in Miracles. This gathering was held in Indianapolis, which I decided to wait one second, sorry. This talk I decided to listen to because it took place in Indianapolis, since I'm going to be moving to the state of Indiana, and I found that synchronistic, and so I listened to it. And of course, what's amazing is that that ties into so many things that I have been discussing and sharing with individuals recently. So I got pulled into a discussion. That's not correct in saying I got pulled into. I was inspired into a discussion about fighting for truth. Okay. And I had some words of caution in this, and the person that I was exchanging messages with said, I understand everything until this point, and that is, how can you say that fighting for truth is coming from a place of fear? Um, the first thing, I didn't necessarily, I don't know if I did say it's coming from a place of fear, but the first thing I would say about anytime we think we have to fight, the first thing I would say is, who is it that we are fighting? If I choose to fight, who am I fighting? Do I recognize that the person that I am going to battle is my brother, my sister, who is also a child of God? Who is it that I am fighting? And even more importantly, because we live in a world of illusion, which is what this is, okay? And I have put out many, many videos about this topic and spoken about it and phrased it in multiple ways. We live in a world of illusion. What that means is, what is real? What is real from the level of spirit is beyond form. Everything we see with the eyes of the human body, everything we hear with the ears of the human senses, these five senses, this is all flawed. It is absolutely flawed right away, okay? And A Course in Miracles and many other texts, but in particular, A Course in Miracles speaks to the correction that takes place, that the Holy Spirit, as it is called in this text, the Holy Spirit makes the correction if we're willing to hearken to that, okay? Everything that we see through the eyes of the human, everything we hear through the ears of the human, all of our human perceptions are flawed. Okay? On that level, they are innately flawed. And that is because this reality is not real in a sense. Okay? How do I say this another way is, I am playing a role right now in this body, in this form. My higher self, my spirited self, my Christed self is powering this vessel that is speaking now. Okay. It is a communication device. I use it to walk, to get from place to place, to speak, to communicate on whatever level. It is a vessel. It is not who I am. And the same is true for all of you. The who you are, the fullness of that cannot even be contained within this vessel, okay? Because the truth of who we are is so immense. The glory of who we are is so immense that it cannot be contained completely within a human form. And so, there is a connection, there is a cord in a sense that does connect us with the divine self that we are, but all of that cannot be present in this vessel. It could not withstand that level of power. And so when you come, I almost want to say, and maybe I will, when we are dumbed down in order to be able to hold residency within a vessel, a human form, we take on what many call the ego, this belief in separation from God, source, whatever. And I have spoken about this in other videos also. The veil of forgetfulness, as it is cited in many Christian faiths. So we take on this level of forgetfulness so that we can, for a time, play out these experiences here, which would not be possible if we knew and remembered ourselves as what we really are. And okay, so what I'm being inspired to say is, if you knew yourself as God, would you be able to have a bad day? If you knew yourself as God, would you be able to get mad when you smash your finger? Would you be able to feel threatened by the loss of a job? Would you be able to feel fear about the physical health of your body? These things on an experiential level would not be possible if you knew yourself as God. Because as children of the infinite creator, we are all that. Okay, we all have God power because we were created in the likeness of the source of all creation. If we knew ourselves as that immensity of power, and by power I mean just innate greatness, okay? If we knew ourselves as that, having this experience just would not be possible. And so we take on this veil of forgetfulness, or the dumbing down into the body, or if you see the source connection coming down as a cord through the chakra systems, in a sense, that cord is slowing down the connection. And I did make reference to this in another video also, that electricians would understand that the different forms of electrical wiring can allow more current to pass through. Okay, the bigger the gauge, I guess, the more current can pass through. So imagine that you have this cord coming down through the chakra systems that is bringing the higher level intelligence of the spirit, the divine essence that you really are. And the more you connect with the source of all, the more you connect with absolute truth. And there's where we get into a sticky area, okay? The more you connect with absolute truth, the more of that energy, higher level intelligence, can filter down, can come down into the vessel, okay? To a point. To a point. So but I digress. I'm going to come back to this, okay? Some things that were cited in this talk that point to this very well is, the speaker said, pain and pleasure are the same. And that is I'm sorry, I just got really loud there. at the level of spirit, on that higher consciousness plane that is above and beyond form. Okay. In that space, in that knowing, pain and pleasure are the same. They are simply sensation. Okay. The ego, as it is cited in this talk, I will say the mind, the intellect, the world, the conditioning of the world is what I mean when I say that. Okay. The conditioning of the world that we take on to have this experience tells us that pain is different than pleasure, and here's why. Okay. We know that these things are not absolute truth because we know there are people in the world that can defy this. There are people in the world who feel no pain. There are people who can put themselves in a state of relaxation or suspension. And this is how powerful the mind is, right? From a mental place where they will feel no pain. They can have dental work done, as it was cited in this talk. They could have surgeries done. And there are those, very few, I'm sure, but there are those who I remember reading have had actual surgical procedures performed while they were awake without anesthesia. And so it is possible. So that means, and someone else might say, oh, because there's something wrong neurologically or whatever. Well, guess what controls all of that? That would be the mind. Okay. Some might say the brain, but that's, I'm not going to argue over semantics. So, but anyway, pain and pleasure are the same. When we get to, and this is where truth comes in, okay? When we get to the level of truth, when we get to the level of that higher consciousness, we see that this pain and pleasure are simply sensation. That pain and pleasure then become judgments, and these are judgments. All right? Which leads to the next point. I'm kind of doing this, it kind of ended up going backwards, but that's funny. Ethics and morality. And so with ethics and morality, mine will differ from yours. It is just a thing. What is ethical and moral for me may differ for you. Okay, so then ethics and morality are judgments, just like pain and pleasure are judgments. How do we know that again? Okay, so here's another good example. I'm going to come back to masochists. There are people out there that enjoy what some of us would call painful sensations. They get great enjoyment out of that. Okay, so to them that is pleasure, you see. And so that's why these things are not absolute truths. Okay, now ethics and morality. Here's where I got into the discussion on truth, fighting for truth. And my caution was this: whose version of truth are you fighting for? Because when we get to the level of truth, what is real, what is truth, nothing that we see or understand that is happening here is real. It is a perception of mine, yours, or someone else's. It is a reality that is being created by a collective consciousness, which means it's not true. It's not real. It is a bunch of people filtering thoughts, pushing thoughts with the God power of intention behind it and creating or manifesting a seeming reality. On the level of truth, there is only love. On the level of absolute truth, there is only love. All the rest of this is a show, is an illusion, is a situation which has been created to allow for experience. And that is all. So I found this really interesting because, you know, when we think we have to, and I get sucked into this too, and I have to take a little break from it because I too get sucked into what is going on in the world. Um, I get discouraged by what I see and hear, you know, and I do, and I have. And so sometimes I need to take a break from it just so that I can regroup. So what I have to do then, I have to go back to A Course in Miracles, and I have to hammer out some reading there, and I have to listen to some talks, and I have to center myself again in what I know is absolute truth, because here now there are, you know, 100 different stories playing about what is going on. Which one do you tune into? I would say that the one that we tune into, we do so to bring, and it is for the experience, but it is also what can we glean through that experience. And so whatever I gravitate toward, there is something in that for me that I can learn to, it's hard to say better myself, because the myself that's real is perfect as you are, perfect in the way that we were created by God, by source. But in this experience we make choices. So sometimes I need to just ground myself in absolute truth so that I can make the highest choice for myself and everyone else. So a quote from Jesus was cited in this talk, and the quote was, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall inherit the earth." Maybe. Well, that's interesting, is it that? Is it blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall inherit? I think that's interesting that I just said it that way, because I think the real quote was, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." That was an interesting little blip there, since we are on the planet Earth and we are this, what I'm talking about does have to do with what's going on this planet. So that's really interesting. But with all of the different stories playing out, it's hard to know what is real. And what I will say is none of them are real. We have to understand that everything that is going on is a creation through a mind that is somewhat in error, as all of our minds are, because the Holy Spirit, or, you know, God, Christ consciousness, through that we can make the correction if we are willing. But in order to be willing to make that correction in every moment, we must be seeking first the kingdom, which is absolute truth, which is being in that space of absolute truth and making every choice and seeing everything from that position. And I don't think there have been a whole lot who have accomplished that task and still been in a human form. You know, even Jesus, who is the master that I hearken to the most, that I am the most, that I gravitate towards the most, even in his human form, once he had achieved that level of awareness, he was not in human form that long, because, once we reach that point, we don't need this anymore. We don't need this experience to do anything. And God would say we never needed the experience to do anything. It was something that we wanted to do. So, because we were created, we are perfect as we were created. So we didn't have to do anything, but y'all thought it was fun. Y'all thought it was going to be fun. There you go. So I think that kind of sums up a couple other things. I think I did explain what it means when just by this video here, when A Course in Miracles speaks of illusion and that which is real, and that the body isn't real. Okay. It talks all the time about the body not being real. And why it says that is because real means true in this sense. Truth is above or beyond form. The body is form. It's matter, it's material, it's form. Truth is beyond form. And so when the Course speaks of the body not being real, that's why it says that. That's about as simple, because I am complex, but not in this. So that's about as simple as I can understand the distinction between what is real and what is not real. What is real is always so. It is always that. And I have said this many times when I was dealing with religions. There are religions who try to teach us that we are sinful and evil and we are born in sin and these kinds of things, and that is not possible. It is not possible because we were created in the likeness, in the image and likeness of that one that is perfect, pure love, absolute truth. And so we are also. Anything that would have us think otherwise, and even in the thinking then, is an error. Okay? So if we could resonate on that level and live every day from that place of understanding and absolute authenticity, it definitely would be a different world, wouldn't it? Because greed would not have entered the picture like it has. So again, when we feel the need to fight or defend, we must ask ourselves, who is it that we are fighting? Who is it that we feel we need to defend ourselves or someone else against? And that doesn't mean, okay, if I see some situation playing out in front of me and it's a physical attack of some kind, and I am inclined to step in and do something about that, I guarantee you I would. That is even this personality is that. My body would just be moving. Okay. I have even lately marveled at some videos I've seen online, where, and I don't even know if they're real, but where people were being dragged from their homes for refusing to, get a vaccine, or I don't know, they refused to do something after a COVID checkpoint, I don't know, some kind of something. And this video showed people being dragged from their homes. Or the videos where, people weren't wearing a mask walking down the street and they were being attacked by their local police. And I marveled at, who is the one with the phone taking this video? Because I'm going to tell you, if that was happening in front of me, I would not think to grab for my phone because I would be in it. I would not be back there holding the phone videoing this thing because I would be in there. As gently as possible, but I would be in there. And so, and at the same time, realizing that I must be careful not to pass judgment on whoever videoed that. And as soon as I realized that, oh, I'm in that thought, I'm creating separation. But at the same time, I'm also grateful that someone did and was able to video it, because I know that in that situation I would have responded differently. And it may be absolutely possible that what was more beneficial was that video that person took. And so, because how many people got to see that, and how many people were able to learn or grow from having seen that. So beliefs are judgments. Ethics, morality, judgments. Even the sensations experienced by our five senses are judgments. I think once we know that, we get to look at everybody differently, everything differently, ourselves differently. You know, how many times do you hear, I can't, I can't, I can't? And I say, why? Who says? Who says you can't? Who said it has to be this way? Who said it has to be that way? I don't know if this is happening in the world now, but I'm going to assume that because I'm recording this video today, it's something that's going to become relevant, if it isn't already, that this will come up when we are, you know, looking at vaccination, no vaccination. I know what's right for me. I know what's right for me. I know because I just feel it. I don't know what's right for someone else. I don't, because I don't know their soul's journey. I don't know. Fly, leave me alone. I don't know why they chose to have this experience. And getting that vaccination may be completely in alignment with the experience they choose to have. I don't know that. You know, so I would never want to take that right away from them if that's the experience that they want to have. But if I knew that someone was coming into, you know, if I saw someone standing on a train tracks and the train was coming, I would do everything I could to help them off the tracks, if that were, you know, if I were there. So we have to be careful of the judgments. We have to be careful of, another friend mentioned the word discernment, and I'm like, that's an interesting concept, discernment. Because discernment is supposed, in my mind, is using the level of Christ consciousness or a higher level. I'm sorry, there's a cow mooing outside, and it sounds like a dinosaur. It sounds like something prehistoric. It's not the first time it's done it different nights, but it's a little distracting because it just really sounds like I just came out of the land of the lost or something. Anyway, the word discernment. So what it means to me is to use that higher level intelligence, the level of truth, Christ consciousness, spirit, mind, spirit mind, okay, which means spirit influencing your mental process, to see, to perceive, to understand. Having said that, there are so many things that can get in the way, because you're trying to merge in discernment. You're trying to merge the truth from spirit. And if you haven't cleansed all the other aspects of the human mind out of it, you still got all your fears and your everything. And fear, right? Because there is only one choice. It's fear or it's love. So if you haven't cleansed the fear out of the mind, then still your discernment can be set astray, can be not manipulated, but kind of like I'm seeing a ping pong game in my, so it can be, set astray. That's fine. So we have to be careful because, a lot of times I hear people say, oh, I wish people would use discernment, or you need to use your discernment. Well, that's true. But the soul's journey is the soul's journey, and you're going to see what is necessary for your higher path, if that's what your goal is. So discernment doesn't necessarily mean that two people are going to align on what they're viewing anyway, because their discernment may not be the same. So, it's like saying your perception. It's a more spiritualized word for perception. If the mind hasn't been cleansed properly, if you're not in that Christ consciousness space at that time, if, all of this infringes on the ability to see clearly. And with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up, because that fly is really starting to bug me. Literally. Get it? Bug, insect. Hey, knock it off. I hope this message finds you well, and peace and love. May you be blessed.